I decided to add a 50-inch light bar to the Jeep, and I wanted to make this video to help anybody out that might have the same idea. I ordered a 50-inch 288 watt light bar, which comes with wiring harness and mounting brackets, as well as two auxiliary lights that mount at the bottom of the mounting brackets. I'm going to talk about installation of the brackets, the routing of the wires, as well as the connections, and then we'll take a look and see what the final result looks like. The Jeep that I'm going to be installing this on is a 1994 Jeep Wrangler YJ, and it has a soft top. The soft top is important because I'm going to do some of my routing through the plastic soft top trim pieces that are fastened to the front windshield. I'm going to do this video a little bit backwards in the beginning. I'm going to start with the finished product and show you how I did my wiring on this light bar. And if you like the way that I did it, then keep watching and you'll see all the steps throughout the process. I saw some other videos where the wire was run down along here and then goes inside right here. There really wasn't enough space. You know, up at the top there is, but as you get closer to the bottom, that gets really tight. And underneath here, there's definitely not enough space for the thickness of the wire. Since my light bar wire exits on the passenger side, what I decided to do was bring the wire up through this crack and drill a hole right through this plastic trim piece for the soft top. I installed a grommet to help keep it waterproof. The wire comes in here and runs down along this B-pillar. You zoom out so you can get a better shot of that. And I have these zip tie mounts that are adhesive. Run that down on the inside along the B-pillar. I drilled a hole here, and I was hoping that I could get the wire to go right in here, but what I didn't notice is when I close the door, it closes in this, it takes up this space. So what I would suggest, if you are going to be running your wires this way, instead of putting a hole here, maybe put it over here. So that way the wire can come down, around, and just go in right there. My initial plan was to go through this, but that wasn't working for me. So I used another one of these zip tie mounts here, bring the wire around, and now the door clears. And there's a junction right here for this bottom light. Wire comes down, and this little part of the bracket that sticks down just a little bit further works real nice to hold that wire in place. I just had to feed it through. And the wire comes around, through, goes down in here, runs all the way across, and it's also spliced in with the light there on the other side. Here's the driver's side light. You see I did the same thing with the bracket. Wire comes through the same way as it did on the other side. Comes down, and there's a splice behind the dash. The light bar kit came with a switch, but I wanted to use my own. And there's a relay right behind this plate that the switch is connected to. So the switch input to the relay. Then there's two power wires that go from the relay right to the battery. This is a battery cutoff. So I do have 6-gauge cable that goes to this cutoff. And then my ground runs over to this bolt right here. I have the ground wire behind this plate. Now I filed down the paint behind there just to make sure I have a solid connection, and it's a solid ground. So I'll zoom out and I'll give you one last look. See how this looks. See the other side. It's pretty clean. close the door, that's what we have. Okay, 50-inch light bar. Feels okay. It's not super heavy duty. Also, we have the mounts for each end. These are made out of, looks like cast aluminum. We're not going to be using these. And a bag with mounting hardware. Also comes with an Allen key. So this is padding. I'm assuming this is to go between the brackets and the window frame, so you don't scratch your paint. One bracket. And surprisingly, this is very thick metal. They're very heavy duty. I'm impressed for the price that I paid for these. I expected this metal to be a little bit thinner. Okay. Here's the lower LED light. And the other side. Additional mounting pads. These are triangle shaped. These are going to go down here at the bottom of the mounts, actually on this side. Some additional hardware, we'll find out what that's for. And the wiring harness. Comes with a relay. Okay, so we have our switch, on-off switch, relay, and there's an inline fuse here. This is the main battery connections. So my plan was to run the power line for the light bar inside of the A-pillar, right next to it, right on the driver's side. But the way that this light is set up, if I put the light so the power line is oriented on the driver's side. It's on the top, and it's more susceptible to rain getting in here. It really should be like this with that on the bottom. So I might have to change my plans a little bit and run the wiring up on the passenger side. And I think I'll get longer life out of this light doing it that way. After unboxing the entire kit, I realized that there's no instructions for the installation or the wiring. I plan on doing my own wiring, so I wasn't going to follow their instructions anyway, but just wanted to give everybody the heads up that it does not come with instructions. So I've heard of some folks having some issues when they remove the bolts to secure these to the windshield frame. Apparently there's a plate inside the windshield frame that the bolts attach to, and if you take out both of the bolts at the same time, that plate can drop down or could lose its positioning and make it very difficult to get those bolts in. And another issue that I'm going to run into is there aren't any holes here on the side, and I have some off-road mirror mounts on my Jeep for when the doors are removed. So I'm going to need to put some holes in the side of this. Here's what I'm talking about. Apparently there's a plate behind these two bolts that sometimes could get misaligned if you take both of those out at the same time. And then these are the two bolts that I have for my off-road mirrors, where I'm going to have to put those holes in the bracket. So I'm going to remove this mirror and mock up the bracket and see exactly where I need to drill those holes and then repaint it before I mount it on the Jeep. All right, now that I have the side view mirrors off, I'm going to go ahead and mock up the bracket and see exactly where I need to put my holes for the side view mirrors. Let me show you what I did with this bracket. Because of where these holes fall, I had to slot this bracket. If I didn't do it that way, the holes for the bolts would have been way too close to the edge and would have risked breaking through. You see when I have it straight on, you can see how close they were to the edge. Now I'm going to paint this so I don't have to worry about rust, and then I'm going to start mounting. I'm going to start loosening these torx screws on the window frame, and the correct size is a T40. Now mine, because they have so much paint in there, initially looked like a T30, but it is a T40. Here's the bolt that I removed from the windshield frame. Here's the bolt that is supplied in the kit. And you can see it's a little bit longer to make up for that extra thickness of the bracket. Before I mount these brackets, I have to put padded sections on so I don't scratch up the paint. The bracket's mounted, the holes line up nicely, so I'm going to go ahead and mount the side view mirror and then move on to the other side. Alright, now that the side view mirror is mounted, now I'm going to tighten up these two bolts on the windshield frame. Again, starting with the top. Right, we're good. And this thing is solid. I mean, it's not flimsy at all. I'm rocking the whole Jeep with this mount. Okay, brackets are mounted. Alright, so let's give this a shot and hopefully I don't break anything. All right, so the bar is secure. This is real solid. Next, I'm going to mount the auxiliary lights down here. All right, so now I'm going to start routing the wire for the upper light bar. And as I said earlier, I want to run it right through here, and I'm going to drill a hole in the back of this to run it on the inside of the B pillar. So it'll go through here and come out right up here, and it's going to run down along here and then go through this foam down under the dash and then run across. All right, so I drilled the hole here and I have the appropriate size grommet. I'm going to fit in there and then pull the wire through. Your grommet's in, now I'll fish the wire through. Okay, here's what we got. Yeah, it's very tight. No water's gonna get through there, that's for sure. And door closes just fine. This lower light wire, I'm gonna go ahead and run it through here. And this bracket right here holds it in place nice and tight. I laid my harness out across the seat. I'm going to start by finding a place where I'm going to mount the relay. It needs to be close to your power source. I'm going to mount my relay behind this plate. And I have screws, I believe they're where these little marks are. Here, here, and here. I already have a relay mounted to this one. You can see it right here. I think I'm going to mount this relay to this screw, so it'll be sitting right behind this plate. There's room back there. All right, so I'm going to give you a shot underneath so you can see where this relay is mounted. That's right behind that plate. From the front, you don't see it. The power's connected. I have my ground mounted behind this bolt, and my power is hooked up to one of the terminals behind this battery cutoff switch. These battery cables hanging out of the bottom are going to be tied up when I'm finished doing all this. I haven't mounted my amp yet, so I still have these cables here. And next I'm going to wire everything up to the switch. I pulled the panel off, and this is the wire that's going to go to the switches. So I'm just going to feed it up under here and come out here. All right, switches are hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and put it back in here, put the screws in. I can put the gauge cover back on. Now we're going to go ahead and test these things out and see how bright they are. It lights up pretty much everything. Let me back up a little bit and see if I can get a better shot. All right, let's try this again. All right, so let's see how this looks from outside the Jeep. Oh, that's pretty bright, blinding. so here's my regular headlights. Now I'm gonna flip light bar on. Big difference.